Hi, I am Mike Owens with VA Careers Live. As we get ready to close out 2024, we're reminded of the great times we had this year on Talk About It Tuesday. Me, along with my colleagues Kendra, Tim, and Dave, promise to bring you the latest and greatest information about careers here at VA, and we hope that you, our viewers, believe we delivered on those promises. But before we close this chapter and move on to 2025, we're going to use this episode to highlight some of the best career tips that we shared on this program in 2024. So get that pen and paper in hand and enjoy our top 10 of 2024. Happy holidays from all of us to you. So the number one thing that I always talk about is make sure that your resume is tailored to the job announcement that you're applying for. If you apply to 10 different jobs, guess what? You're going to have to tailor your resume 10 different times. So I know it's tedious, but again, never be the reason you don't get hired for a position. So again, never be the reason, and never be the reason why you don't get hired for a position. So please make sure you do everything that you need to do to make sure that you make yourself look like one of the most qualified candidates for that position. My biggest resume advice that I have for you today is when you are formatting your resume, all right? If you are formatting your resume, when you are formatting your resume, make sure that your resume is highlighting the job that you're applying for, not the jobs that you've held in the past, all right? And I know you're like, well, Mike, how does that make sense? Because all I have is experience from the past. I don't have experience from the future. Basically, what I'm saying is that, yes, you're going to be listing your experience from your past jobs, but you want your resume to show that you're the perfect candidate for this job that you want in the future. So don't just list all of your work experience without formatting it to highlight the experience that you want that hiring manager to see when they're looking at your resume. Because again, as a hiring manager, I don't just want to see the work that you've done in the past. I want to see how this work relates to the job that I'm hiring for. So if you don't do that, and I have to go search for that information, or I have to assume that information, I'm not going to hire you as a hiring manager, because that information you have to convey that to me. It's not my job as a hiring manager to go looking for it and digging deep for it. So although you are listing your resume advice, and although you're listing your past experiences, all right, make sure that your past experiences show how you're the perfect candidate for the job that you're applying for. All right. So again, as a hiring manager, I want to see that you're the perfect candidate for the position that I'm hiring for, and I shouldn't have to go dig for that. So please make sure your resume highlights the job that you're applying for, and not highlight the jobs that you've had, not just highlight the jobs that you've had in the past. So if you are a nurse and you have a resume as a nurse, I don't want to know what a nurse does. I want to know what you have done as a nurse in your past. So use action verbs. Say, I've accomplished this. I have initiated this, or I have created this task, or I have managed this person, or I have supervised a lot of these. I have supervised a certain number of people, or I have managed the budget, or I have helped the budget. There's so many things. You have to put action verbs of things that you've done. Again, that's the biggest mistake that people do on their resumes, is that in their resume, in their bullet points, it shows me what somebody who holds that job title does, but it doesn't necessarily tell me what you have done in that job title. Okay. If I'm a nurse manager and I'm hiring for nurses, I already know what nurses do. Now, let me put that. I am not a nurse, so I don't want any nurses out there saying, "Hey, Michael, I didn't know you were a nurse." No, we're just using nursing as our example today. But if I am a nurse, let's say I am a charge nurse, or I'm a hiring manager, and I've been a nurse for years, I already know what a nurse does for the most part. Now, I know there's different type of nurses, different specialties. I know every hospital is different, every floor is different, so I get that. But generally, I know what a nurse does. I need to know what you have done during your nursing career. All right. Show me and then also in your resume, show me what your passion is. If you have any type of leadership skills, because again, as we mentioned earlier in this broadcast, if I'm a nurse and I'm looking for someone, if I'm trying to hire a charge nurse, I need to know what your leadership capabilities are. I need to know that you can lead people. I need to know that I can hire you to be in charge of nurses and to be able to run a unit or be able to manage a group of nurses efficiently, and that you're a great team leader. All right.
I'm off to be a stay-at-home mom, so now there is a gap on my resume. How should I address that in my resume? I think we all can understand that and appreciate that there are often good reasons for us to pause our employment, if you will. It is quite common for people to experience gaps in their employment periods for various reasons. Parenting certainly qualifies, as well as caring for an elderly, sick parent or other family member. I would simply recommend including the period of employment absence and summarizing accordingly, perhaps highlight the positives of taking a break from paid employment. So obviously there's going to be a gap in your resume. Questions will be asked. You can go ahead and preempt the concern by simply explaining it in a positive or favorable way. Thank you.
I would recommend that cover letter that outlines your experience. That's one thing that you could possibly do. Other than that, there are some, if you're military, there are some companies out there that will help assist and guide you. And I've seen in past Talk About It Tuesday conversations, there's some people in the chat that say, hey, reach out to me and I'll talk to you. But aside from that, I would just tell you to keep applying. It is it's a process. I myself, all those years ago when I applied, I applied multiple times, many times before I finally, I guess, cracked that nut, so to speak. But I got in. Persistence is key. And just keep at it and keep applying. And like I said, if you're not doing a cover letter, maybe try a cover letter that highlights, read that announcement and show them in the form of that cover letter what you're bringing to the table.
There are many who are out there who are going through internship interviews with VA. And the recommendation would be to follow the current form of interviewing that's in VA, which is performance-based interview, PBI, performance-based interviewing. The technique is responding to the question that's asked by describing what you've done in your experience, by giving us a little story. That story would be like what it is that you did, how it was done, the outcome, and also anything that was a positive impact from what you did. So PBI interviewing is a technique where they're asking you to give them information based on the experience that you had, the performance that you had while doing the experience. Again, I'll say it slowly. They want you to respond to the question by telling us what you've done, giving us the details of how you did it, and the outcomes. And the fourth thing would be is to provide a positive impact that was made, if there was a positive impact made.
Outweigh education in some cases. So do you guys feel that experience can outweigh? Do you feel like education always outweighs? How do you feel? Do you think this is a truth or a myth? So one more time, it says experience can outweigh education in some cases. Do you guys feel that is a truth or a myth? So I'll give you 3 more seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, pencils down, all hands up. So with that being said, this is a truth. All right. This is a truth. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to say that you should never get your education. I'm an advocate of education. I think that you should get all the education that you want, all the education that you need, all the education the more education is good. But there are a lot of cases where sometimes experience can outweigh education. If you have someone that's in the workforce for like 15 years, and then you have someone that just graduated college and they may have a degree that's closely associated with that career field, but sometimes the hiring manager needs someone that has that experience already. Sometimes you need sometimes hiring managers have positions where they're willing to train or they have time to train someone, but sometimes they need someone that can do that position from day one. So in that way, sometimes experience can trump education. So it's a two-edged sword because, again, I will always say get as much education as you can. All right. The more education that you can get, the more the better along it'll take you farther in your job search or in your career. But also at the same time, those of you out there that may have gone to the military right out of college, or right out of high school, or you got a trade, or you just went into the workforce and you were able to work yourself up without a post-secondary education or without a college education, I don't want you to feel defeated. I don't want you to feel deflated. I don't want you to feel like, okay, because even though I have 15 to 20 years of experience, that I'm always get trumped by somebody that has a degree. That's not always the case. So again, experience can outweigh education in some cases. I'm not going to say it's every case. Every case is different, but just know that sometimes, yes, experience can outweigh education. But I'm not saying that one is better than the other. All I'm saying is that if you are one of those applicants out there that went straight into the workforce after high school, whether it was the way of the military or way of just going to work or getting a trade, and you feel like you're not going to get a great job because you don't have the education behind it. No, that's not the case. If you have a great work experience and that work experience correlates to that job announcement, yes, you can get the job over someone. Learn. We all know none of us don't know everything, and as a recent grad coming into your first career field can be very scary because you may be on a team with people that have 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30 years of experience. And here you are just graduating college and you're joining a team, and that can be intimidating. But don't let the intimidation cause you to just kind of clam up and just kind of sit in your corner. If you're around folks that have a lot of information and a lot of experience in your career field, learn from those folks, learn from their mistakes. People are always willing to tell you about their mistakes and how they've learned from their mistakes and things that you can do to prevent the mistakes that they made when they first started in that career field. So again, always be willing to learn, always be willing to learn, and always be willing to again, talk to people that have that experience in your career field. All right.
My second thing. And I think the third thing, I'll go back to where I'd spent the majority of my career. And that is in voluntary service, now called the VA Center for Development and Civic Engagement. And if you just want to check it out, volunteer. Come in and say, hey, I don't even know anything about the VA. Are there volunteer opportunities? Come explore the culture of VA and have that opportunity to be in and around VA employees, and most importantly, our veterans, and see if it's really something for you. Because like I said before, you can always walk away if you don't like it.
Right.
But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people to explore VA in a way that's, not so intimidating. And perhaps that's where you find those good mentors and coaches as well.
And, I'm glad that you said that because when I'm on other episodes and I'm talking about, getting your foot in the door, or how can you, especially when it comes to networking, we talk about networking a lot on this program. And one of the things that I say that I regurgitate on a weekly basis is volunteer. Because again, I worked in the voluntary services office. You were the chief of voluntary services. And I tell people one of the biggest ways you can network is to come and onboard as a volunteer at VA. That way you can get placed in a certain spot at the VA working, volunteering in a certain office, but it allows you to get to know people. It allows you to get to know hiring managers. It's allowed for you to promote yourself around there as a volunteer so people can get to know who you are. And you never know who at that hospital or at that facility, you never know when your application is going to come across their desk. So,
and don't be afraid to start somewhere that you may not feel is exactly what you want. Because especially once you get into VA, there's so many different positions. There are detail opportunities, training opportunities. You definitely have the ability to move around, especially once you learn the administrations, the different positions, So those are the first two. Don't be discouraged, and don't be afraid to start somewhere that may not be your very first choice, because there's one mission at VA. We need great people. So again, those are two major things.
And a very important thing is to update your resume, making sure as a nurse, if you've been a nurse for 20, 30 years and you have a one-page resume, but you've worked at several different facilities or in several different positions, we want to see a complete full resume. I know in the private sector, maybe they're pushing that 1 to 2 page resume, but here at the VA, we have to look at all of your experience, because your salary can be based on that, and the supervisors want to know what you've done, and we have that high expectation. So make sure that you're updating your resume